In this lesson, I'm going to walk teachers through Unit 5, Day 20, the Cold War Homefront. So this lesson corresponds with the student workbook, pages 86 to 90. And if you don't want to use the graphic organizer on the slides, there's a single page graphic organizer available in that student workbook on page 91. This is a great lesson for a jigsaw activity, so consider doing that with your students, but it doesn't necessarily have to be jigsawed. Because they're looking at pictures, mostly they can get through most of these documents in one lesson, working on their own. So we're still thinking about the ideas and events defined in the Cold War. This lesson really closely connects to the past two lessons. So the day 17 and 18 lesson on the superpower rivalries really connects here, especially that duck and cover drill video from that lesson. And then it also brings in the McCarthyism from the previous lesson, lesson 19, because this is all about a fear of communism and how regular Americans were impacted. So they're going to be analyzing a few videos and images to think about the Cold War at home. Starts off with this video, which is a political campaign video, a presidential campaign video for LBJ, and it's a pretty intense, short ad. The message of it could be vote for Lyndon B. Johnson as a basic lesson message, or it could be vote for Lyndon B. Johnson because if you don't, people might die from nuclear attacks. The next question is opinion based, so I didn't provide an answer for that. So this map was actually in the day 17, day 18 lesson also. So this is not the first time students would be seeing this necessarily, but it gives you a whole lot of information about nuclear warheads and how both the U.S. and the USSR were accumulating as many nuclear warheads as they could, and they were building air bases and threatening each other with total war. And it talks about how this idea of mutual assured destruction kept these wars from happening. It also shows the division between NATO and the Warsaw Pact. And students who look closely can notice that the United States had allies really around the Soviet Union, whereas the Soviet Union didn't have many allies around the United States. So there's a lot that students can really get out of this map. So there's a couple notes here about the Cold War, specifically around NATO and the Warsaw Pact, around nuclear warheads. And this slide is just going to connect it to the previous lesson on McCarthyism. So just bringing that back for students. Here, we're just thinking about that advertisement from the earlier in the lesson a little bit again, just thinking about Americans fearing nuclear war and the threat of nuclear attacks and how close to home that was. Really driving home that this wasn't like a far away fear, that Americans were scared that this was going to happen to them on a pretty much a daily basis. So students are going to be looking at a series of images, documents, and making some and analyzing them, so that you're just introducing that here. And then they're going to jump right into the independent work. So if you would like, you can show the student-facing video for this lesson, which is going to walk students through image number 1 and how to fill out the graphic organizer. But I'll do that with you too here. So this is one of the documents, document number 1, and it's called the 10 Commandments of Citizenship and Thinking About Fighting Communism. So I'm just zooming in here. It's got 10 kind of rules of being an American citizen during this time. So students would take a look at this document. They can click on the link to see it larger. And then they're going to fill out this chart. So just putting the document number in and then reading the document through. They might have some varying answers on this, but what's the message of this document? It's to be an active participant in their government and community in order to fight communism. And what does this document tell us about the fears of Americans? Americans feared communism at home. And how would you feel if you saw this ad on television? That's a opinion-based question, so I didn't provide an answer for it. And students are just going to do that for all of these documents. Definitely for this one, we'll want to click to see the full size, or you can add a zoomed in version, just like I did here, to see the text, and then also see this disaster kit. This is very similar stuff we see now, so students should be able to make connections to these ads. And then we see a fallout shelter or a bomb shelter here, um, and a couple of ads here, just thinking about the constant threat of communism, and another one um, similarly. So you might pick and choose those documents if you want to shorten the lesson. You might do all of them. You might do this as a jigsaw. And the wrap up here is just to think about it as a connection to today. So you can think about it as a connection to kind of the COVID threat or the terrorism threat, anything that students can make connections to today. And the final check-in is just thinking about their documents. So fun lesson, lots of rich materials, primary sources for students to dig into. And if you want to use the student-facing video, you can find that on YouTube.